Hey everybody, and welcome to The Brand Called You. This is the podcast that talks to thought leaders from around the world that are doing exciting things. And today I'm super excited about our guest, Daniel Mendez, who is a communications consultant. He has worked in companies all over the world. He's bilingual and he's worked in the Americas, Europe, the Asia Pacifics with companies like Bristol, Myers, Squibb, and Bechtel. And he's doing some really, really interesting, innovative work in the field of communications, especially with AI and digital innovation. And I can't wait to talk to him. So welcome, Daniel.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lisa, for having me.
So I want to start because not everybody knows what a communications person does, a comms person. Until I sort of went corporate about 7 years ago, I didn't either. I just thought it was a department that wrote that basically wrote press releases or emails or something. But I think the scope of what you do is very, very broad. Maybe you could just sort of enlighten people as to what happens within the field of communications.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's interesting that a lot of people think that PR actually stands for press
Right.
release,
Right.
which is a really small part of what communications professionals do, in particular in the broad world of corporate communications. Um, I've done quite a bit since I started my career in communications. I actually started doing community relations. That was my first job right out of college, in a mining project in Chile in the Atacama Desert. And my role was to really be a community liaison between the company that was building this gigantic project, and the communities around this project. So I used to go there and just introduce the project and understand what their needs what their concerns were, and just try to address that, to get buy-in and support from the community to move forward with the project. That was my first role, and I did it for about 3 years before I went into internal communications. And internal communications is another big bucket of activities that communication professionals do in enterprises. And they involve mainly engaging with employees and keeping all the whole workforce aligned to the values of the organization, the vision of the organization, the mission of the organization, and in general, just keep them committed to what that company is trying to achieve. So I was lucky enough to be part of the team that began this internal communication practice in this company where I worked. And we had to start all of that with, create the value proposition for employees, the mission statement, the vision statement, and the values of the company, which very uh, it was very, I worked very close with the HR department, which started taking me into that direction. And then my next step in my career was HR communications, where I was lucky enough to have an international assignment in the United States from Chile. Um, I moved to Arizona, and my role was to support HR communications for a small mining project in close to Tucson, Arizona. And in there, it was a little bit of the two things that I've done before. So one was to really communicate internally within the organization, but a big part of that role was to attract talent into the organization. We had to hire around 700 people within a year to restart the operation of that mine. So we had to really do a lot of community engagement, a lot of marketing outside of the walls of the organization, and just try to bring people in. Um, so it was a really good mix of things. And then when I relocated from Chile to the US, I started doing technology communications. And in particular, I was supporting executive comms. Since 2016, I've supported three different chief information officers, chief cybersecurity officers and VPs of digital innovation. And that was a whole new area for me that involved both communications from those organizations to employees, but also to those organizations to partners and investors and media and talent. And that's what I've been doing since 2016. And really, it's been an incredible journey and something that I continue to learn every single day.
It's interesting because, you say you're bilingual, but you're actually doing a lot more than just speaking Spanish and English. I mean, it sounds like really what characterizes your work is this ability to speak lower level management, upper level management, this team to that team, this particular set of needs to that set of needs. Like you kind of are, in a way, trying to communicate, transcend different backgrounds, different social classes, different job descriptions, right? And sort of find common ground, I think. Is that what would you say that's?
Yeah, I mean, definitely working in functional communication. So, supporting HR, supporting technology, supporting procurement, legal, marketing, investor relations. Every single function within an organization has its own lingo, its own set of priorities and stakeholders. So whenever you start getting involved with a new group, you really need to learn that language, right? And it's interesting the way you put it because yeah, I mean I'm bilingual in English and Spanish, but I also had to learn how to speak HR. I had to learn how to speak tech and understand, from acronyms to very technical language in some areas and understand also priorities of the different stakeholders that interacted with those organizations. And that's it's super important and that's why I feel like we're very lucky everybody that works in corporate communications because while our role is normally not very well understood and there's a lot of challenges in positioning the real business value that we bring to organizations, we in pursuit of really positioning our profession as a strategic partner to the organization comes a lot of value in learning and just being able to perform these roles in different settings and with different stakeholders, and that it's always exciting. Like I feel like every day there's something new. So that's what I'm more passionate about.
You're in your LinkedIn job description describes you as a master storyteller. So what does that mean? Where does the storytelling come in?
Oh, the story. Yeah, I mean that's a critical skill that communicators need to have, right? Like no one really will engage with content that doesn't tell a good story and doesn't bring value to your like it doesn't connect with you, right? And to do that, you really need to put that talent in finding what are those right buttons that you need to push in the person that is hearing your story or reading your story or watching your story, listening to your story to connect with it and get inspired or committed to engage and take action. So storytelling is really
Getting them emotionally involved.
that's exactly right. I mean, that's what we should aim to do every day. Have people inspired, have people excited, and find a way to do that because it definitely is not a one size fits all. You really need to understand what resonates with who's going to be receiving that story and consuming that story so that it resonates with them at a deeper level.
What do you
So
do? What do you do though when you have to suppose you're working for a company whose mission you personally find difficult? For example, the pollutants that might go into mining, and you have to convince the community of its efficacy. Like how do you do that when you're your own personally when you have a hard time wrapping your head around it, or when maybe there's I don't know when the outcome is not exactly what the recipient wants?
Well, that's always tricky. I mean, every industry has its own challenges in positioning the value that they bring without, skipping some consequences, right? Um, and that's why, I mean, I always say that to be in an industry or working for a company, it really needs to align with your own values, and it needs to align with what you believe in, because if not, it's just very hard to tell a story that you are not believing in, right? Um,
Well,
I've been
that's
lucky.
probably the first mistake a lot of new people going into the field, right? They just grab a job without kind of probing the values.
Right. I mean, it's tricky because when when the market it's so challenging, and you have certain pressures that are not necessarily aligned with what your passion is or what you believe in. I mean, it's a tough position to be in where you need to sacrifice some of those things. But I mean, whenever possible, I think it's important to align your career in the direction that you have, and the values that you have, and the passions that you have. I've been fortunate to work in companies that are extremely responsible and very caring of their stakeholders, and I've haven't had a lot of trouble, communicating the value that we bring to stakeholders and the communities that surround those organizations. I know that it's hard to believe for an industry like mining, for example. But I got to say that I worked in mining in Chile, and the reality is very different than of what you will see here in the US, where normally mining projects are very close to communities. In Chile, everything is very isolated. So this jobs where I worked in, you had to be like drive in, drive out, because they were literally in the middle of the desert, in the Atacama Desert, and you have to drive 2, 3 hours to get to the job site, because there's no other way to access, and
Right.
you stay there, 7 days when you're working, and then you get 3, 4 days off, and then you're back to the job site. So in terms of communities and the environmental impact of those projects, I mean, in some areas are very impactful to the community, but companies are very responsible in addressing those and making sure that all of those risks are managed. So
Do
from
you,
that perspective, yeah.
I mean, do you think that it's um more prevalent in America to sort of look at the bottom line before? I know it's a very broad question, but I was just wondering if you noticed kind of cultural differences when you came over, that kind of surprised you or shocked you.
I mean, as you said, it's a broad question. I've been fortunate to work in 4 different states here in the U.S., Arizona, Texas, Virginia, and now New Jersey. Um, in general, as I said, companies have a very strong commitment to their stakeholders, and I do feel like, again, in my area of expertise, when I started working in mining, I feel like Chile, because the industry has such a strong and is so relevant to the economy in the country, there's a very high standard. So I know for certain, for example, that there's a lot of practices, especially around safety and environment, that where Chile is better in performance in comparison to some operations here in the US. So there's a lot of learnings that come with that, and I was lucky, to bring that expertise from Chile and into some operations here in the US.
And I know you got very inspired to start your own unique project, right? At Commsjobs, which I found absolutely fascinating. Having been somebody who's tried to use sites like LinkedIn to get jobs. And I was wondering, tell me about it and tell me how it came about and what it is.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. That honestly has been a little bit of a passion project that started unintentionally, I would say, but looking back, everything kind of led to it. So as I was saying, and I mentioned before, I started my career, and I'm originally from Chile, and I relocated to the U.S. in 2016. Um, and one of the things that I never really thought about when I relocated was that I was leaving everything behind, and that included my network, my coworkers, my classmates, my professors, my teachers, and everybody that could advocate for me and tell others, right, what I was capable of, right? So so when I started interviewing in the US to get my first job in 2016, um, it was very hard because, how do you put your foot at the door, right? How do you connect with hiring managers, with peers in the industry that can help you get that interview or see opportunities that are normally not available broadly in these job platforms, right? Um, so it was hard. It was a hard time, and I had to start building my network from scratch. I had to start connecting with people via LinkedIn. I had to start attending happy hours and dinners and conferences and whatever I could find to start creating those relationships and building those relationships. And when I finally landed at my first job here in the US, I started in Washington, D.C., ended up moving there. I told myself this was very hard. I will never stop building my network and staying connected with these people because it will be beneficial at the end of the day. So I continued. Um, fast forward 2022, there was a big reorganization in the company I was working in at that point. And unfortunately, a lot of my colleagues lost their jobs, and some of them had been with the company for 15, 20 years. And some of them right out of college, and their whole network was within that company. They hadn't interviewed for any jobs outside of that company in 15, 20 years. They were not sure how the market was, what were the new practices in terms of interviewing, connecting with hiring managers. So much, that they have missed because they were in this job for so long. So when I asked, how can I help you? The first thing that came to me was, well, help me connect with people because I really don't know where to start. And looking into my LinkedIn feed, I was seeing, because I had curated my network so well, following mostly communication leaders across industries, across states, across countries. I was always seeing these openings that they were promoting and just talking about. Um, so I said, look, I'm going to start sharing those openings that I see under a hashtag that it's open to everybody. It's Commsjobs, and follow that, and you will start seeing, what I see. And that's how it started. And at that point, I was probably connected with 500, 600 people. Today, after a little more than 2 years since that started, I'm close to 8,000 followers, and the hashtag CommsJobs has grown to 2,500 followers as well. And honestly, it has grown as a community, and that's what I love about it. People continue to help each other, and they engage in conversations in these posts. They connect with each other. And really, my aim was exactly that, having people connect with other people. Because what happens when you're finding or trying to find a job, you go to the jobs tab in LinkedIn, or you go to Indeed or any other job boards that you follow, and you apply for jobs without connecting with anybody, you just throw your resume into the void. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if anybody saw your application, and then you just get a rejection email, and sometimes you just get anything. What I always say is that if you start from a human connection, if you don't get the job, at least you get a connection and you get someone in your network that in the future may be an advocate, and it could be someone that can help you land another job when you need it in the future. So it's all this concept of make friends before you need them and never stop doing it. So that's how it started.
Have people reported back with real world successes, whether it's
Yes.
benefits or jobs? Tell me about some of those.
Yeah, no, and that's the best part of it. When I got the first message of one of the people that I had connected with, was like, hey, I got this job and thank you so much, because if it wasn't for the post that you made, I couldn't have seen that, and I wouldn't have nowhere to start to connect. That really made my day and probably my whole week, because I was like, this is having real impact in someone's life, right?
Right.
And again, that it's I mean, there's tons of people sharing jobs out there, and they're super helpful. I've tried to be very intentional about sharing opportunities that are posted by another person. So everything that you will find under Commsjobs, it's either the hiring manager or someone in the hiring team that is saying, hey, my team is hiring. Hey, we have this opening. Please apply, reach out, ask questions. So they're willing to connect with you. And I think has a tremendous value, because you at least, again, start from that point of like, I have something to offer to you, and I would love to connect and build that relationship. And what I always tell people is that as soon as you do that, never stop. Check in. Even if you don't get the job, just send every once in a while a message. How are you doing? How are things? How is the person that you ended up hiring? And just maintain that relationship that in the future may bring you another opportunity.
Do you see expanding at Commsjobs to include like some sort of other components like job training or advisory, or I mean, how do you want to expand it?
That's a good question. I mean, the way that I expanded that already, because initially I just started, sharing because it was easy to do. And again, they were just jobs that were popping up in my feed. So every time I would see one, I would just post it. A way that I brought that to the next level is that I intentionally started dedicating Fridays at lunchtime to connect with people that were asking me questions, because as soon as the hashtag and the community started growing, there were more people reaching out like, hey, can I pick your brain about this, about that? Or, hey, I'm looking to get into from media into internal communications, or I've always worked in agencies and now I want to get an in-house role. Would you share some advice with me? And I thought that it would be helpful for me also, to continue to network with people. I had already been doing that just with colleagues, people that I normally don't work with, and dedicate Fridays to just introduce myself or talk to them about what they were working on, how we could collaborate. So I kind of expanded that, and now Friday at lunchtime, it's my time dedicated to connect with at least two people, and hear them, try to be helpful in their journey, because again, job search is a really lonely place to be. And a lot of times you just wonder if you're doing the right things, if you're, you know, approaching it the right way. Especially when you're early in career, there's just a lot of doubts that you have and questions and how to start. And I get a lot of value from those conversations too, because I learn from people. I learn about what they're doing in different industries, what they're doing in different roles, what they're doing in different areas of the corporate communications world. So it's really beneficial for me as well. And more importantly, I sometimes meet some, especially younger professionals that are brilliant. And I know that in the future, there's maybe even the opportunity that I'll be working for them, So
Yeah.
that's
Like,
the
you're
next
like the,
step.
you're like the elder statesman, advisor, coach, but you're collaborating and connecting is really, I think, reflective and indicative of a new generation of thinking that, rather than being competitive and secretive, you're sharing, and it can only lead to better things, I think, which is a kind of new paradigm for the next few generations, I think. Don't you agree?
I mean, I just feel like it would be such a shame to learn all what you're doing and not connect with others. I especially in communications, it's such a social area of expertise. Like you need others. There's really no way that you can achieve things on your own. Um, so so not being connected, not being aware of what's happening outside of your own company or your field, not understanding everything that's changing around you is just detrimental to your own progress and to your own development as a professional. So I feel like it should always be like this, and really no matter your field, like there's and today more than never, I feel there's this need to connect, and I've seen it after the pandemic, when everybody, of course, had to stay away from each other. Now there's this energy. It's a different energy. People are looking to connect. People are looking to
Yeah.
come back to conferences in person, come back to the networking dinners, the networking happy hours, and just have these moments of, hey, what are you working on? What are you doing? And just learn from
Yeah.
others. And it makes such a big difference. So I think it's just a good moment to get into this wave and ride it like yes you can, and take advantage of the relationships that you can build
Yeah.
looking into the future. Like it's a very, I always say that networking it requires a lot of patience, requires a lot of intention, in and being very um, dedicated to maintain those relationships. It's not just about like, hey, handshakes, exchange business cards, or connecting LinkedIn and then let it go. It's something that starts like that, but then grows into, hey, there's this project. Hey, there's this thing. I saw that you posted this, was very helpful. This is something that we're doing. And then you start feeding that relationship to turn it into something bigger that it's going to be beneficial for both of the parties involved.
You're going to absolutely hate this question because it's so antithetical to the spirit of what you're doing. But do you ever see it in the future as being a way to monetize this, or it's not?
Yeah, look, I mean, a lot of people ask me that question. And they also ask me like, so what do you get out of this, and are you a recruiter? Well, I'm not. I mean, I'm just honestly a guy that has a very curated feed, and has opportunities just coming there, and I just want to share them with people. I'm not planning on monetizing this, first of all, because I feel that the people that need this normally don't have the means to be paying for that service. Like when you're in job search, you normally are, you have some budget constraints, and every dollar counts, right? So if I can help and be helpful without people having to spend money on it, I think it's a key it's a key area of who my target audience is. That's the first thing. The second thing is that I have a day job that thankfully pays the bills and fills my passion, and it's inspiring. So honestly, this is more like a paying it forward, and a volunteering opportunity for me. Some people, go to volunteer in other organizations, or they dedicate their times in the weekends to do things. this is what I do. I volunteer my time every day in trying to find at least 3, 4 new opportunities for people to see, connect, and reach to others. And I feel like that's a contribution to my peers, my community of communicators, and I'm not planning on monetizing.
Well, and it's clearly deeply satisfying to you as well.
It is. It is. It's inspiring. It's especially when I get that feedback of like, hey, this actually was very helpful. Um, it's something that fulfills me personally, and I think well, actually, some others have been inspired by this. At this moment, I've been focusing mostly in jobs in the US and Canada. Because it's the market that I have the most exposure to, and well, I'm living in the US now, so I get to see what the market is. But this has inspired others in other countries. I know that someone started a Commsjobs.in in India, and they're bringing people together. They're actually incorporating some of what you said before, like more training also, and opportunities to get together, and so it's more like a niche community that they created. And I also think there's someone in Africa, I can't remember which country, that also started a Commsjobs for that market. And it's great. I mean, it's inspiring to see that it's something that is not unique. There's a need for it, right? And it's inspiring to see that others are willing to dedicate their time to build these communities, because again, it can get very lonely out there. And just having support from your peers, people to talk about the work that you're doing, get ideas, bounce ideas that you have with others. It's just so important.
So, and this podcast is produced in India, so we'll have a link, and I'm sure that you're doing a great service to a lot of viewers by sharing this information. I really want to thank you so much for taking the time. I can't believe how fast it's gone, but I'm so excited about this project and all of your projects, and just want to wish you continued success.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I really appreciate the opportunity, and it's great. Again, one of the things that you're doing too is bringing communities together, and I feel like that it's so important in the professional world. So I really appreciate the invitation.
Thank you, Daniel. I'll look forward to following you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.